my undergraduate degree in geological engineering. I worked as a geological engineering consultant, then went to do my master's degree in disaster studies, and now here we are doing the PhD right here in Dominica.
Right in. Why did you choose Dominica?
Why not Dominica?
Excellent.
Why not Dominica?
Okay.
Where else is there better to do this type of research? I mean, I've got family here, right? My granddad is here in Roseau, so my dad, he grew up in Dominica. It felt like the right place to do this type of research.
Okay, so why are you finding out?
What am I finding out? Now, that is the question, man. That is the question. I mean, it's going to take many months, of course, to go through all of my data to really figure things out. But I've been here for 3 months. I've conducted over 95 interviews now.
95.
I've conducted over 95 interviews. I've got over 200 responses to my survey. But if you're out there and you're interested in being a part of this research, absolutely, the survey's still open. So please still take it. But what am I finding? Resilience is this huge, I want to say almost nebulous concept, right? It means lots of different things to lots of different people. And importantly, a lot has been done. A lot of people feel, that we are more resilient today than we were before or directly after, certainly, Hurricane Maria. But also a lot of people are saying that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
I was about to ask, do we understand the word resilience?
Do we understand? I mean, it depends, doesn't it? What does that word mean? That word means different things to different people. Absolutely. Do we understand it? I think overall, if you ask people that question, 2 things often come to mind. One, bounce back better. That comes up, right? Bounce back better.
Yes.
And another thing that comes up is concrete roofs. A lot of people say concrete roofs is resilience.
Is that the answer?
I don't want to say yes or no, that is the answer. It absolutely does provide a lot of resilience to weather events, often hurricanes, tropical storms. And a lot of people feel a lot safer with that. And I think even having that feeling of safety adds a lot of resilience. People are able to be a bit calmer, a little bit more at peace of mind, right? But importantly, the work that I'm doing is looking at multi-hazard risk. I'm looking not just at weather events, but looking at the earthquakes, looking at the volcanic eruptions as well. And I'm not here to, be an engineer or talk explicitly about, the structural stability of things. But there are definitely conversations about how certain infrastructure may be more suited to weather events and other infrastructure may be more suited to geological hazards.
Who are you speaking to while you're here?
Who am I speaking to?
Yeah.
Everyone. I'm trying to, at least. I'm very privileged in the group of people who have spoken to me so far. And if anyone's listening here today, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's taken time out of their days for me over the last 2.5 months. But I've spoken to teachers, researchers, fishermen, farmers. I've spoken to former members of parliament, former parliamentary representatives, former ministers, current permanent secretaries, people in government positions, government staff. I've spoken with musicians, vendors, all sorts of people, trying to get as broad a spectrum as possible in terms of who we're speaking with.
Do you think that people understand? I'll go back to the question. Do you think that Dominicans really understand that word, quote unquote, resilience?
I do. I think that, again, it comes down to what we mean by that word. But I do think that overall people understand what can be done if things are more resilient. I think when I frame it like that, it makes at least people give very rich and insightful answers. People say, yes, this is what resiliency would look like to me. And they give me a wide array of answers, very rich, very deep answers. And I think importantly also that these answers go beyond just infrastructure. And I think it's important to recognize that the work done by the government, looking at the climate resilience and recovery plan, also goes beyond just infrastructure. But people talk about the economy, people talk about agriculture, people talk about education, tourism, so many different elements, psychosocial health, that comes up as well. There are so many different elements that people discuss when talking about what resiliency means to them.
Are there still challenges as it relates to resilience? And what would you advise going forward?
Are there still challenges? Absolutely. I mean, the CRRP, that Climate Resilience and Recovery Plan that the government put out, is 2020 to 2030, right? It's a roadmap. And so I think even people in government would admit that there's still work to be done. I mean, we're not even halfway through yet, right? But I suppose that's a little bit of what my PhD hopefully offers, is a little bit of an insight as to where we are halfway through. So is there still work to be done? Absolutely. Are there still things that can be done to make the country more resilient? I think absolutely yes. And like I say, I think the government, I certainly hope the government would also agree on that point, looking at their own, CRRP, their own plan.
Okay, but tell me, you said that you've discussed a little bit with government, but if you had to give some advice, like say yesterday, if you had to give some advice yesterday as it relates to resilience, what would you advise in terms of where we are?
I think one of my big pieces of advice that will come through this research, I mean, I don't think that this is, anything controversial at all, and definitely something that I'll be recommending, is that we go beyond just climate resilience, right? I mean, I was kind of alluding to that earlier, but here in Dominica, we have 9 volcanoes. They say 9 active volcanoes. I think in the Caribbean, we have something like 16 active volcanoes, and 9 of them are in Dominica. So, we've got to be thinking seriously about the potential for volcanic events and what that looks like. There's not just the volcanic eruption itself, but there's the ash clouds, right? There's potential pyroclastic flows, lahars, landslides. There's the potential seismic activity that comes with that. So I think something that's very important to me, and coming from the work that I've done as an engineer and the work that I did during my master's degree, is to think deeply and critically about more than just climate related hazards. How can we build resilience to all of the hazards that we are susceptible to?
Wow, that's very, very deep. Franklin?
Yes. How long you say you've been here?
I've been here for 2.5 months.
Give me one interview that you've done in your million interviews. One that truly impacted you. Recall for us.
The one that comes to mind, the one that comes to mind is a very sad one. But I was speaking with someone who had lost 2 of his children during Hurricane Maria. I think that really brought it home for me and reminded me. This was one of my first interviews, one of the earlier ones that I did, just how devastating Hurricane Maria was. I mean, your listeners will, of course, all be very familiar with it. I'm familiar with it in the sense that, my granddad was here, and we were obviously very worried and concerned and wanted to hear how he was. It's something that I followed at the time, but I don't think I fully appreciated it until I got here and started talking to people. And like I say, that interview came early on. And just to hear this person's experience, to hear their loss, to hear how devastating that is, of course, not just then, but every single day since. The fact that never goes away. That trauma as well, and we talked about psychosocial health as well. Not just from losing family members, but also just from listening to the rainfall, like that storm that we had last week, right? So I think that was a very important piece to me, was just recognizing how devastating Hurricane Maria was.
If you had to use a simple word, because there's still people out there, if you ask, say, 6 out of 10 people will not understand the word. In a simple way, how would you break it down for them?
Resilience?
Yes.
I think that that term, that concept, build back better, bounce back better, I think that's something that people use to help them understand it. And I think that goes a long way. I had one interview with someone who said it's more than just build back better, though. It's build back wiser. And I liked that. I thought that was a really good way of putting it. Because it's not just better. What does better mean? Better for who? Better how? But wiser, I like that. It's learning from what we've experienced and making sure that tomorrow we're smarter, we're wiser than we were yesterday, and that we're taking that lesson forward. We're learning from what happened. So I think that would be a huge piece that I'd put out to people to try and understand that term resilience. Build back wiser, be stronger.
Any more questions, Franklin?
Yeah, you just floored me there listening to Bill. I wrote down build back wiser. We've had a number of storms in Dominica, and I can attest to from 1979. You were not born as yet. Welcome. And Maria, and what's the other one we had before Maria 3 years ago?
Erica.
And Erica, right? So we have them by names, and they have devastated the livelihoods of people across Dominica. As Matt mentioned, the word resilience may be synonymous with people who are 30, 20, 10. But what about the elderly folks? We have something called oral tradition. Is there any way of documenting the oral tradition of our elderlies to recognize a pattern of just sudden destruction? Is there a framework for that? Is there a framework for that?
I think that the framework for that is allowing that oral tradition to continue and to empower it and to make sure that we are listening to our elders, listening to their stories. I'm hoping that I'm able to tap into that a little bit with the research that I'm doing. I think about 30% of the people that I've interviewed are over the age of 65.
Oh,
So
okay.
tapping in with people in that who have experienced some of these events, including Hurricane David. I think what's really important is that we never forget any event, that we never want to get to a point where people start to forget Hurricane Maria or the effects of Hurricane Maria. We don't want to be forgetting Hurricane David. I've had some very interesting interviews with people where they talk about their childhood, and they talk about their childhood, 60, 70 years ago, and they say how things were different. They talk about there being really deep drains, in their village, and that over time, we've started to construct closer to these drains, or the drains have got a little bit more full. So now this person in this particular community that I was interviewing was saying how now, when there's a big rain event, it's a lot more catastrophic than when she was a little girl, simply because of this relationship with the infrastructure and how we've changed that over time. So I think, again, maybe I don't want to say for sure. Obviously, I can't say anything with certainty, but maybe part of that is forgetting some of those stories, forgetting some of that oral tradition, and forgetting some of that important knowledge, and not passing it down. Oh, that's why we had those deep drains. That's why
Yes.
our houses were built a little bit higher up, and maybe we just had a cellar underneath, but we didn't actually live down there. You know what I mean? That was just empty space in case there was a flood. So I 100% think that that's important, and I hope that research like the research that I'm doing is able to, give a voice or give a little bit of a platform for some of these voices. And I also hope that it empowers and encourages more research, because that's, I think, a huge piece of this as well. We've got to continue this. This doesn't end with me, nor does it start with me. I'm building upon the research, the amazing research that so many people have done. And I hope so many more fantastic people do after me.
Somebody's asking the question there via WhatsApp. What is the difference between natural disasters and hazardous?
Oh, that's a great question. It's a slightly philosophical question, but I'll answer it quickly.
Go ahead.
So to me, a hazard is the potential for something bad to happen. It's the potential. A disaster is when it happens. And a disaster is when it happens and when it actually affects people. You know what I mean? If we have an island in the middle of the ocean and there's a volcanic eruption, but no one lives there and it doesn't affect anyone, there's no big ash cloud, so it doesn't travel anywhere else. Is it a disaster? Not really. It hasn't affected anyone. It's just a hazard. It's a volcanic hazard that has occurred, but there's no disaster. However, as soon as it affects people, now it's a disaster. And what's interesting is because a lot of people say, we can't stop natural hazards, but we can stop disasters. And we've seen that even. There are some cases where hurricanes come through the Caribbean and they might hit, a couple islands. They might hit both of the islands at the same category. And on one island, it might be a disaster. And on another island, they might brush it off. Now, of course, there's so much nuance that goes into that. Same with earthquakes. We've seen that with Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Sometimes the earthquake has affected both of them, yet at least in recent years, it's affected Haiti a lot worse, exactly. So again, it's that same thing. The hazard was the same. Of course, we can go into the nitty gritty. A lot of the times the earthquakes actually, the epicenter is closer to Haiti anyway. But the point is that the hazard is the same, yet in some places it becomes disasters. So there's a little bit of an incentive for us to try and stop them from becoming disasters.
Okay.
Very, very interesting.
Well, let me hit him again with this one.
Go ahead.
The impact, if there's any, and I'm sure there is, of climate change on our entire weather patterns, what to expect, in part of being resilient, being able to prepare yourselves long in advance. Yeah, climate change. How does that interrelate marriage or broken apart?
Well, climate change is absolutely integral to all of these conversations. With climate change, we're seeing an increased frequency and at time also increased magnitude in some of these weather events. So I think it's important for us to recognize how climate change is going to affect our islands, but also, and this is a really important piece for me, it's not just the hazard itself, it's the cascades, it's the domino effect that a lot of these hazards can have. You've got your hurricane, you've got your tropical storm, but what are the real hazards coming through? It's flooding, it's landslides, it's potential sea surge. If you've got an earthquake out in the middle of the sea, it's the earthquake maybe, but it's also the potential for tsunamis, right? So it's making sure that we're thinking, okay, it's not just that we're getting more rain. What does that mean? What does it mean that we're getting an increased frequency of
Who's
rain?
measuring?
Who's measuring?
Yeah.
But also resilience comes down to, if you've got an increased frequency, imagine that we're prepared for, and I'm not saying that we are or aren't, but imagine we're prepared for a Category 5 hurricane to hit once every 10 years. Okay, let's just say that was the case. We're prepared for a Category 5 hurricane every 10 years. Imagine with an increased frequency of events, we're actually getting 3 Category 1 hurricanes every year. How does that change it? Of course, the actual the magnitude is much less, a Category 1 versus a Category 5. But if you're getting 3 back to back, let's say, are we prepared for that? So climate change adds some of these nuances that we need to be thinking about in terms of both the frequency and the magnitude.
I want to go back to a question I asked you earlier, and I suspect you spoke to that, but very briefly. We are very, if you will, very into concrete roofs these days. Is that the best way to go? I mean, I have a concrete roof, and I find it very, very hot compared to, say, a galvanized roof. Is that the best way to go, concrete?
I can't say what is the best way to go, but what I can say is that with anything that we do, we are perhaps ticking one box of resilience, but perhaps leaving ourselves open to other issues. Like you say, if you've got a concrete roof, a concrete house, in this climate where things are getting hotter. I mean, people are telling me in the interviews, people think things are getting hotter here. It's hotter, it's hotter, it's hotter. So that's one of those cascading effects. If you've got a concrete house, then things might be warmer and continuing to get that way. Another thing that people have raised to me as a potential concern, and obviously, again, I'm not here to act as an engineer and say what is and isn't standard practice, but they're saying that they're concerned if there's an earthquake, how will the concrete fare? If there's a big earthquake that comes through here, whether that just be seismic activity or an earth tremor related to some volcanic activity, does that mean that it might crack up the concrete? If it cracks up the concrete, is the house still structurally sound? Or perhaps, it's still structurally sound, but it just means that if there is a hurricane or the next time there is some rain coming in, now all of a sudden it's creeping through all the little cracks and it's coming in and it's pooling up. So these are some of that, again, that domino effect, right? Right, like the concrete roof might be good for one thing, but maybe it has some vulnerabilities to other hazards. What are the adverse effects of that?
Yeah.
You're lost in that interview.
Yeah. I'm listening to him when I have. Okay. Okay. Do you think communities, okay, in case there's God forbid, a disaster, how would you tell people from various in Dominica, let's say those from Portsmouth to Roseau, how would you get them mentally prepared for sudden misfortune? How do you go without getting them upset or concerned all day long? What would you do? You suggested. I said you suggest.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's a tricky one, right? Because it's so hard sometimes to have these critical conversations around disasters because they are such an awful thing to have to think about, right? I mean, I struggle myself even sometimes thinking about all of these different and terrible things. I think what it comes to is just trying to be as prepared as we can be and be as aware as we can be. And I think that goes a long way. And what some people have raised in the interviews is wishing that there were more simulations. That's something that has come up as something that some people would really like to see, not just for the village councils, not just for the disaster committees, but simulations that could be for everyone or anyone that was interested in a community, and something that doesn't just happen once every 10 years, but something that happens once every year, right? Or once every 2 years, something that empowers people so they know, okay, if something like this does happen, we practice this. We know, we've all been empowered to have first aid training. We all know how to operate a chainsaw. We all, know how to use walkie-talkie radios, all of these things, right? And having this simulation training so that it's muscle memory. This is what some people have raised as one way that could kind of answer what you're saying, so that, God forbid, something did happen. People have that sense of, I know what I need to do.
Okay.
The question before you go, Franklin, what impact, somebody's asking, can drilling have on geothermal energy, having the fact that we have volcanic, we have volcanic eruption here, the possibility of that?
Absolutely. I mean, I can't speak directly to that. Obviously, would have to do a full investigation on that. What I can say is that the reason for there being geothermal activity in the first place is because of the volcanism. They go hand in hand, of course, It's because there's volcanic activity here that they're looking to do geothermal work, because that's where we're getting the energy from, or attempting to. As far as there is some concern that I've heard from people that by drilling, it might trigger things. It might trigger earthquakes. It might trigger potential volcanic activity. I can't speak to that, but what I can say is that I'm aware that the University of West Indies are doing monitoring on the volcanoes, which I think is fantastic. And hopefully that by continuing to do that, should anything ever change, or any indication that there's a correlation there, that hopefully that comes
I'm hoping
out.
that you can do more research, because there are people very concerned, especially those living in the valley, that might certainly have some impact.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that's another important thing from the research that I'm doing. I'm having conversations with people. I've got this survey that, like I say, again, for anyone listening, please take it. I might throw the link in the Facebook chat so that people can refer to it later. But the point of this
Before
is,
you go on, what's the Facebook address there?
well, I was going to put it in your Facebook, but what I could do is I can give you the link later on, and we can plug that. But the important thing that I think my research should be focusing on and highlighting are the recommendations for future research. There are so many fantastic young Dominicans who I think would love to do research in Dominica if the money was made available, if there were grants available to do research here. And this is one of those things, right, that could be researched. I'm not saying that there's no opportunities, but there are fantastic Dominicans who go off and do research in the United States, in Canada, in the UK, because sometimes there aren't simply the opportunities to do it right here at home. So I hope that...
Well, you're saying there are many opportunities out there.
There's many opportunities out there in the world. I'm saying it'd be fantastic if there were more opportunities to do research right here and do some of this fantastic research that needs to be done. Dominica is definitely a very interesting place, as we've been saying, from a multi-hazard perspective.
Yes.
But there's so much data that still needs to be collected, right? And continuously collected.
All right. Somebody, as you said, you'd mention it, but somebody wants you to share the link.
Yes.
For that particular survey.
So the link is, you can find, I think the easiest way to find it is www.tinyurl.com/domdisasters. So that's www.tinyurl.com/dom-disasters. And I think that's the easiest way that you can find it. And like I say, it's a survey. It's about 15 minutes long. If you take it, there's an opportunity at the end to enter into a raffle, a prize draw for one of three $100 cash prizes. That draw will take place on the 15th of October. So still quite a bit of time to take it. But the sooner you take it, of course, the better. If you refer a friend, you can get an extra entry into the draw. So a little bit of an incentive there.
Here's another researcher asking a question here. Can you ask him if he will agree or argue that there is a relationship between climate change, government policies, forced displacement, and impoverishment? Is that a too deep a question?
I think that's a fantastic question. So you're saying between climate change, forced displacement, is that what you said, and poverty?
A government policy.
And policy, did you say?
Yes.
And policy. I think in terms of forced displacement, I think that's a really interesting one. There's obviously a lot of people who have been asked to leave their area because it's
the community, of course, because of Maria.
Yeah,
that was a very serious storm.
Yeah,
and that forced people to move to another area.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what I found from that, and the link to my research with resilience, and it goes into that bigger picture of what does it mean to be resilient, right? There are people who have been forced out of the community they were living. They've moved to a new community, into an apartment. And some of the people that I've spoken with, I don't want to say everyone, but some of them aren't happy, perhaps in the best way they could be, because their farm, their garden was in the community they used to be in. Now they're in an apartment building with dozens of other people, many other families. There's a lot of things going on. They don't have the space to do their farming. They don't have the space to do their garden. And all of a sudden, their source of income is gone. Their sense of community is gone, right? So I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that maybe they are resilient if we check a box in terms of they've now got a concrete roof over their head. Fantastic. But as a person, their mental health, their psychosocial standpoint, is that resilient? So I think that is a connection between climate change and, that forced displacement and how we've seen that.
Very, very interested there. We have a few more minutes. Any questions you might want to ask or place? A few people are asking questions on my WhatsApp, but is there something you want to leave with Dominic at this time as you leave?
I think an important piece for me is to think critically about, what it means to be resilient. Absolutely. What people can do. And what people want to see, and think critically about that. What is it that you want to see? I'm going to be back here, all being well, God willing, in spring next year to continue my research and hopefully
How many years would it take you?
Oh, that's a good question.
Any other questions?
That's a good question. I'm hoping. I mean, I have funding for 3 years,
Wow.
so hopefully I can do everything within 3 years, because that would be fantastic. But yeah, so I'm coming back, and between now and when I come back in spring, I suppose it'd be fantastic for this conversation to continue. People thinking about what it is that they'd like. Think critically about that climate resilience and recovery plan that the government have out. Again, like I say, it's 2020 to 2030. If people look at it online, think critically. Is this checking the boxes? What people are seeing on the ground? Is it in line with what the government have said and what people are expecting from the government? I think that's important. And I think another piece is just continuing to empower people to do research in this area, right? There's so much, like I say, data that still needs to be collected.
Especially the connection between the geothermal.
Absolutely. Everything. I think there's so much that needs to be done with respect to education, what education policies work. There's so much that needs to be done with economic research. There's so much that needs to be done on tourism, agricultural research. So there's so many different areas that still need it. So people thinking about it, and if there are young people out there thinking of doing research, or not young people out there thinking of doing research.
You're young, yeah. You realize you're young, very young.
I feel, I like to hope, I still feel young.
I did say about the young. Okay, I got this one for you, the final one. All right. At what age do you think young people in school, so to speak, should be made aware of classes about disasters and made aware, like drills? Every 3 months at school, you go on a drill. I had the opportunity to teach on TV here. So tell me, for instance, for hurricane, you know what to do: batten up, hold on. For tornado, earthquake, you bend, you roll and tumble. So tell me that. My final question to you. That's it.
So I think that there's so much that can be done at the school level. I think it should be something that's introduced very early on. Again, I don't know. I don't have the answer of exactly how that looks, but I think that this is something I'd like to dive into a little bit more with my research. I think so much of our resilience comes from education. It comes from awareness, and there's so much that can be done at the school level,
absolutely,
right?
Yes.
So I hope that introducing it young, looking at these simulations, looking at training people, and making it fun for these kids so that they're not afraid.
Now, your uncle, I think, or your family is saying, I'm very proud of you for this research. Don.
Oh, Don. Okay, very nice. That's fantastic. Much appreciated, Don.
Great work. And he will speak with you later. Okay?
Oh, that's fantastic. Wonderful.
But again, I wish I could continue the conversation because I'm getting more questions as we go along. So maybe next time.
Absolutely. Maybe next time when I'm back in the spring, we can catch up.
We'll do a lot more.
Absolutely. This has been awesome.
Thank you very much. Well, I guess you can see on Facebook sometime.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you for sharing. It was a pleasure.
This was awesome. Cheers.
Take care now.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. All right, Dominic, over here is 1:26. We have a few guests waiting on the outside, and we'll continue with the program. Thank you very much. We're talking election reform. You know the subject that everybody's talking about? So that's where we delve in here this afternoon, okay? Election reform. Let's take a break and we'll come right back.
Eaststar Trading Limited does it again. Shop at Eaststar Trading Limited in September for a chance to win. Every week in September, a lucky customer will win a $250 food voucher. That's right, a $250 food voucher. Just spend $50 or more and place your receipt in the box provided, and you will have a chance to win. Plus, shop on double points days. Eaststar Trading Limited loyalty card holders will earn double points on selected dates every month until the end of year. So shop and earn more points. For terms and conditions and further details, visit our store in Roseville. Eaststar Trading Limited. We're here for you.
Exciting news from AutoTrade. Incredible savings are here. Take advantage of AutoTrade's Thrifty Thursday promotion. Mark your calendars. On the last Thursday of each month, AutoTrade is offering up to 20% off items throughout the store. Yes, 20% off. But wait, here's more. Keep your eyes peeled for our exclusive Deal of the Day offer, bringing you even bigger discounts on select items. Whether you're looking for car accessories, maintenance essentials, or just browsing for a great deal, we've got you covered. So be sure to swing by AutoTrade every last Thursday. At AutoTrade, it's more than a vehicle, it's a relationship. Terms and conditions apply.
When you want the best, what you do? Shop at SCS. Better than the rest. Shop at SCS. And they all confess. Shop at SCS. You get more for what they say. Shop at SCS. Shop at SCS. Yeah. Shop at SCS. Shop at SCS. What they say? Shop at SCS. SCS family, customer friendly. With free locations, it's so convenient. And our prices, they are the nicest. Madam and Missy, that's where you belong. Oh, tell your mama, tell your papa, shop at SCS. Tell your son and your daughter, shop at SCS. Auntie, nan, and cousin, friend, open power, all of them. Grandma, grandpa, open neighbor, girlfriend, boyfriend, side. What? Shop at SCS. Shop at SCS. Shop at SCS. Shop at SCS. Check us out at Pottersville, High Street, and Downtown Rose.
The Dominica Cancer Society Men's Support Group is observing Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in September under the theme, It's Time to Act. It's time to have your prostate screened as early detection can save lives. A lively panel discussion takes place in St. Joseph September 10th and prostate screening September 12th. Screening for Grand Bay September 15th. September 17th, Whistle Stop where men play dominoes. September 19th, prostate screening in Marigot. Also on the 25th of September, a panel discussion on men and their lifestyle. It's time to take action as early detection can save lives. Don't be left out. Come and support the Dominica Cancer Society Men's Support Group. Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in September. It's time to take action.
Dominicans, enjoy your property, protect your property. You homeowner and businessman, protect your property, enjoy your property. Can't wait for the hurricane, can't wait till you flood again, can't wait till your roof fly out and all your business coming out. Remember, no insurance company will insure your property when a storm is approaching. Get ahead of the hurricane season and insure with a company who gives you the assurance of payment for your valid claim. Come speak with us today at the New India Assurance Company Limited, upstairs AC Shillingford and Company Limited, 24 King George Street, Roseau. Bring along an up-to-date valuation from a qualified engineer and get insured today.
It's time again to activate your Guap Jam. It's on again the annual Walk for Cancer Care under the theme Hope in Every Step. As always and as before, we encourage the kind and usual support of the general public. This year's walkathon will take place in both Roseau and Portsmouth simultaneously on October 6th. The Roseau Walk for Cancer Care will begin at the National Bank Caintville branch and will proceed to the Windsor Park Sports Stadium. At Portsmouth, the Walk for Cancer will begin at the Purple Turtle Bellhole Beach area to the Benjamin Park. There will be musical accompaniment. There will be survival stories and messages from cancer survivors and others. Remember, the annual Walk for Cancer Care is on October 6th in Roseau and Portsmouth. And don't forget to make your generous cash contributions along the way. T-shirts will go on sale early, and we anticipate your continued support from the general public. On your mark, get set. Join the walkathon, for it's time to activate your Guap Jam.
All right, Dominica, we're here. It's 1:35 in the afternoon. For the past few days, I've been hearing a lot of calls. Matt, what's going on with the electoral reform? The guys are silent. We have three soulies here this afternoon there that might give you some more information on here we are or where we are. I'm going to allow Mr. Johnson Boston to kick it off this afternoon. Of course, he'll introduce our other guest, no stranger to radio. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Johnson Boston.
Good afternoon, Matt, to you and to your listeners at home and abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say to you, your shows, Talk on the Block and Matt in the Morning, the Hot Seat, are very well received locally, overseas, and internationally. In fact, I say so to say to you that a gentleman in the United States wanted my number, and he called somebody and said, ask Matt to give us his number. Then a gentleman in Grenada wanted my number, and he asked a young lady here to go to Matt and get Bosso's number.
I'm like a directory, you know.
Directory. So it means people are listening all through
Yes.
Caribbean and world.
I get the request
So I
every
want to
time.
commend you for that and so on.
I was charged flow.
You should make some money.
Yes.
You need it, I'm sure. Yes.
You're very good about that.
Yeah, so we're here this afternoon, and I'm very happy to be here with my colleagues, Nicholas George, who is well known, who have served this country well, and I've always said in front of him and behind him. That is one of those police officers who, when you saw him in his uniform in those days, you feel here we are with a very outstanding police force and so forth. And I worked in government.
So you don't share the same sentiments today?
Yes.
Like you with your shoulders up when you hear what the police force?
Well, I respect the police force and I expect them to do well. But
okay.
But of course, things are not the same.
All right.
And when I was in government,
yes,
I remember acting minister and being a PALSEC and so on, senator in government. And when you meet with Mr. George to discuss matters to do with celebration like independence and so on.
Serious guy.
He's a serious guy, well organized, everything's in place, and things are in order to carry through. And I think this is something we have to appreciate and don't wait until people depart to say all these things about them. I say Mr. George is a great guy, and therefore he has always committed himself to the service of Dominican. And
I endorse this message.
Yes. Oh, for sure. And Ken Vital,
yes.
An economist, well known, well respected in the region, worked at the Caribbean Development Bank. And, when you work in those areas, sometimes you can just say, I'm comfortable and let me live my life and so on.
True.
He had a wife and 3 daughters. And he thought that Dominic has given him quite a lot in education. And therefore, he wants to, give something back to the community. And he resigned his CDB job and came back here and get involved into the politics and so forth. And therefore, he decided to stand on the side of what is right, what is righteous, what is honest, what is fair. And so all of these 3 guys of us here being here could easily be sold into the corruption and what is going on for ourselves. And we have decided to stand for our country. Because some people must stand, Matt.
Some
people must stand. So I commend these guys for this and all those who are involved. So electoral reform is alive. It is there. We have taken what we call a professional, approach to it and written letters and thought we want to have dialogue with the authorities. We recognize their input. We recognize their authorities and we decided to work with them. But it seems that they do not understand that we live in what we call a participatory democracy. And therefore, when you do things on behalf of people, then obviously you cannot just, push it down their throat and celebrate that you have done that. You have to discuss with them and see what you hear and come out at the end of the day with the best recommendation, best legislation, because that is not going to serve just us, future generation.
All right, let's get some comments there from Nicholas George.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Peltier, for having me on the program. I say good afternoon to all Dominicans or in Dominica and those who are listening abroad and everybody else who is listening to the airwaves. It's a pleasure to be here among 2 distinguished gentlemen.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Ken.
Yes, good afternoon, Matt, and to all Dominicans. And, they have all said it, but right there, 2 of the men I respect very, very, very much in our country. And there are many other good men like this.
And women.
And women. That's right. There are many other good men and women like this. And, we are here because we have hope. We have hope that we can turn our country around. We have hope that we can reverse what we have faced in this country. We have hope that Dominica can get where we believe we can get to a prosperous country that can work for all of us. We have that hope. And if we didn't have that hope, we wouldn't be in this struggle. And so the RC also used the word professional. We have been working in a very professional manner, but we have been leaving no stone unturned. We have been doing everything we can do that is right, everything we can do so that no one can say at the end of the day that we haven't tried our best to bring reason And that's what we want. We want reason to prevail. But it doesn't look as if some on the current government side are allowing reason to prevail. It looks like they have other reasons. There are other things that trouble their mind, but that they do not want to let the people go, that they do not want free and fair elections, that they want to stall us for as long as they can. But the more they do that, is the more our country go down. But we have hope. We're going to turn it around, that it's going to be turned around.
I've said very, very early that I'm cautiously optimistic about Dominica getting electoral reform. Also, what's your position today? We've been here for a while.
I think reform is not just a 1 day, 1 year, 1 term issue. It's a continuous issue.
Yes.
And I made the point before that women could not vote, okay, because once the men voted, they took care of the women. And you have to have property and money in the bank and so on to run for election and so forth. And you had to be 21 years of age to vote. And our forefathers saw the need to bring young people earlier to the process, and they have decided to reform it from 21 to 18. Then they felt women has a role to play in national development and so forth. And election have consequences, and they got the right to vote so they can elect their representative in the government.
Okay.
And we welcome that even up to this point. Now, our constitution says once you can read and write the English language, you're a citizen of Dominica and you obtain the age of 21, then you can contest for election. Don't say you have to have $1 million in the bank. Don't say you have to have land all over the place. It just says once you can read and write the English language, you have 21 years and a citizen, then you can contest and so on. I mean, the other things of degrees and so on, fine. It's okay that as you go along, people become more educated, more prepared and so on and so forth. So reform will be a continuous exercise. And even when we were discussing it, we took into account the short term, the medium to long term, because there are issues that we may not be able to do in the short term and can be done in the long term. And therefore, these are things you look at. So even when this government is no longer, because some people feel they're here for life, but there's time when the Almighty will say, I'll give you sufficient time on earth and so forth and call you home and so on. Others will still have to deal with reform because people are talking now in the United States about term limits and all of those things, and things in Great Britain, term limits and so on. So people are looking at those things, and I think it's a continuous thing. And I think it's just unfortunate that in Dominica, for more than 14 years, we're on this road of electoral reform, and we find this government do not understand that reform is something that all of us as a country must discuss and agree upon and arrive at the best ideas so we can have the best laws to govern our electoral process.
Mr. John, I'm asking the same question. Are you optimistic?
Yes, I'm optimistic that we will get electoral reform.
How soon that is?
We might get it before the end of the year. What we might not get are the things that we've been asking for. Some of the things that we've been asking for. I think.
And then what?
And then what we will continue to advocate and protest for the things, because what we're asking for are correct. They're correct. We're asking for removal of corrupt practice in the electoral process.
Okay.
And we have to understand something, that the electoral process, the laws that will govern that process, are as important, or they are only secondary to the Constitution itself. So in effect, these laws give effect to the Constitution. Everything else that are issues from these laws and the Constitution, the Constitution says there shall be a parliament, there shall be a president, there shall be a prime minister. That's what the Constitution says, that big body. But the laws that we're debating says that there shall be an election, and the electoral commission will govern, manage, and administer the election. Following that, the chief elections officer, the chairman, they report to the president the result of the poll. 21 people are elected. It is then they get into parliament to now certify the president. It's the first thing. So if the term of the president is up, Parliament elects the president. And that election comes because they are parliamentary representatives. So if you corrupt the electoral process and then you go to parliament with that, you are already starting with the institutionalization of corruption in parliament. So the president's election itself, though the person may be somebody who is of the highest ethical standard, but their election is corrupt.
The process.
Because the election process was corrupt. And so we have to understand the significance. So it is not a partisan thing that we're talking about. We're talking about the very life and livelihood of the Commonwealth of Dominica. So when we're seeking to engage with the Prime Minister to understand that, and you ask me whether I'm optimistic, the answer is yes. Because we've been asking for that for years, more than 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we've reached a point where he's appointed a consultant. The consultant submitted his report that he issued to us in July last year. And then there was consultation in August. We participated. So we participated with Sir Dennis Byron. We attended meetings with him before he submitted his report. The reports were issued to us and we participated in the consultation. The consultation had a report after that because the OAS, the CARICOM, and the Commonwealth Secretariat delegates attended and they submitted a report. That has not been given to the people. That notwithstanding, we've continued to engage with the Prime Minister. We have written several letters to the Prime Minister asking for a dialogue. He has not responded in writing to any of them. Now that is unethical behavior. That is, the technology has improved so much that in certain offices, when you write the office, you get an automatic reply that they have received a message. So I think it is disrespectful of the office of the Prime Minister not to respond to correspondence that comes to him from citizens of Dominica. It can be said of the President's office that if you write, and if you write incorrectly, the office will call you and tell you, hey, you've written this, but it is not correct. Can you correct? And they will help you to correct the letter and how to properly write the president. And having so dispatched that corrected letter, the president's office will respond. The president will say, I will attend, I will not attend, I will see you, I will not see you. The president's office can be credited with that, not the prime minister's office. And the prime minister has continually sought to put a divide between us and say that those of us who are advocating for a just electoral process are violent, or our actions are steeped on violence. It is the prime minister who's injected violence at every stage. And we've asked for peaceful dialogue all the while. He's the one who's not attending to us. And recently he went into parliament. Before he had said, nobody's going to stop him. I think that was April of this year. Nobody's going to stop him from bringing electoral. Why do you want to bring electoral laws before parliament on a violent platform? And then in parliament, in his contribution to the House, the prime minister frightened me. He frightened me when he says, I don't, you see the way I'm a nice, cool fella there, don't take chances with me, you know. Wait, or you will find out how well the Labour Party can organize. Come with your protests and your demonstrations. We're not afraid of that. We're going to pass the law. That is pitting citizens against citizens who one side is asking for dialogue with the Prime Minister to bring about respectful legislation to our country. And the Prime Minister has sought in Parliament, the People's House, the People's law-making institution, and threaten the citizens.
And during the budget,
And during the budget. I mean, he's taken liberties. You've not heard any member on the ERC, the Freedom Party, the United Workers' Party, or any other group make any threatening statement to the Prime Minister. All we've asked is that now that you have all this data and you have presented draft laws, we're saying, let us have a subcommittee with lawyers of repute, or not repute, but legal standing, that could assist with the Attorney General's work. And then we agree and we may compromise so that when you go to Parliament, we will be in our gardens, we will be at our homes, we will be wherever on the beach, because we know that which is going to Parliament is wholesome and it is good for the country. That is what his responsibility is. His responsibility is not to divide us.
Ken,
Yeah.
your take?
Well, I have a lot of hope, but I will tell you why. We understand, of course, and I know why you're asking the question, because we understand that the Prime Minister doesn't want to give electoral reform.
You know the playbook.
Right. He knows, right. Because why? Why doesn't he want to give it? Well, I guess to protect himself from jail or whatever consequences is ready for him, whether it's in the US or whoever else he has wronged in whatever way, and whether it's the drug dealers or whoever he has wronged. He knows his consequences are coming, and he wants to do his best to keep away from those consequences. So the longer he stays in Parliament, in government, so he'll do everything he can. So we know that. So from that point of view, I understand what you're asking. Why is it, do we have any hope? But think of a few things. Now, he would not be doing what he's doing if he knew he could have won fair and square. I am convinced, and all of us know, if he doesn't cheat, if he doesn't send people around voting multiple times, if he doesn't pay huge amounts of money to overseas persons to get them here to vote, if he doesn't do that, he would have lost the elections. In other words, what I'm saying is that based on those of us who were there, who are here, he would have lost the election. Dominicans have already rejected him, and he knows that. So that's the base of my hope. Number one, the majority of us here have already rejected him. One. Number two, ERC and others, we are doing several things, everything we can to bring reason to the table. We have done quite a bit already. We have reached out to the regional prime ministers, and they are beginning to respond. They have responded. As a matter of fact, if you listen to how the prime minister have responded, it's because some of them are getting to him. And he said some nonsense, I understand, on Kyrie, but that's to be dismissed. If Kyrie comes laughing at anybody, they're laughing at him, at how foolish he is and how wicked he is, and But anyway, that by the side. But CARICOM has a right. And in fact, we are about to also send a letter to CARICOM asking them to intervene, to come and have a
resolution
to come and have a mediation between them, because obviously they don't want to do it for whatever reasons, and the rest of us want the right thing done. So we are doing everything. So on that basis, I have hope. So that's number two. Number three, I'll tell you one other reason I have a lot of hope. I happened to have had a discussion yesterday for labor rights, and I was surprised. He was a very strong labor right. He still is. And I was surprised. People are beginning to see through this government. Labor rights are beginning to tell me these guys are wicked. These guys are no good for the country. They're only looking for themselves. Labor rights are beginning to see these guys have been picked up in Paris. Things we have been, Paris or London or wherever, they have been stopped. Things we have been warning about. I don't know, boss, you remember on Freedom Party, we were warning, I'm sure UWP did the same. But I personally warned a lot in 2019 elections before that we're going to lose the CBI if we don't do the right thing. We were warning and warning and warning. And it's right there with us. The government is broke, and labor rights are beginning to see through that. So I started to the point that many of us here have already turned them away. But the fact is, other labor rights, their eyes are opening too. So we will go from 55, 51, 52, 55% of us who don't want him to pretty soon, given the foolishness he's doing and the fact that people's eyes have been opened, we will soon get to 70, 80% who don't want him. Once we get there, he's gone. But we are not going to wait just for that, but we're doing everything we can. CARICOM, reach out to them, reach out to the people. Hopefully, some good heads among them will take heed, and hopefully we'll have the right thing done.
All right, let's go back to that clip there, that famous clip there by the Prime Minister. You said April? Was it April? July? Whatever day it was. But I'm going to go back to that.
He had one I think it was in April when he made this.
Let me listen to this.
And you cannot tell me that you want to ask somebody to put the fingerprint on an ID card to vote when you don't need the fingerprint to get a passport, to go out of the country. That's not right. That's not right. When the police arrest you, the only time they are authorized in law to ask for your fingerprint is after you've been charged. And we want to criminalize voting in Dominica. That's what we do. Because the only laws that provide that make it mandatory for fingerprinting is the criminal laws. And it's only after you've been charged for crime and read your rights. And now we're saying, as progressive people, enlightened people, that we want to criminalize voting in Dominica because we believe that if we do those things, that we can win an election. My friend, politics is hard work. Hard work. And to do this, you must love people. You must be empathetic. And the people who I see pushing this notion of criminalizing voting in them do not love people and have no knowledge of their history. No knowledge of their history. And they're not sincere. And let me say to them, not because you see me cool and nice all the time, that I am afraid of anybody. So they can bring all the demonstration on they want. But they don't want to test this Labour Party and its ability to mobilize. We are going to go ahead with this reform. We're going to go ahead with this reform. And the Parliament of Dominica will decide, ultimately, what this reform agenda entails.
One, you're going to have the confirmation process, where each person who's on the voters list must present himself, avail himself to the Electoral Commission to say, yes, this is where I'm voting, this is my ID, etc. And so that your necessary biodata, as required by the law, will be taken, and then you will be ready to be confirmed as being a bona fide voter in Dominica, and your name shall remain on the voters list. So that's one of the fundamental points. The other fundamental point is that it will require an ID. We are calling it in the law a voter ID card, and that is another fundamental point. Another fundamental point is that persons who currently reside out of Dominica and who are on the voters list, you will have to come to Dominica to have yourself confirmed. So we will not be going to the various capitals around the world to allow this to happen.
A lot of flip-flopping going on. You see the contrast there and comparing. But also, what's the last meeting or the last communication? I think you said you went to the Prime Minister. Any responses from that?
Well, we organized to have met with him on the 9th of, after all this, this is what Mr. George mentioned.
Right.
The first letter was on the 29th of January this year to meet with him on the 15th of February.
Oh.
Then he said that it was inconvenient, so he'd set a date and get back to us. We haven't had that arranged. But the last thing we did was to ask to meet with him on the 9th of August to present a document to him. And we never heard from him. Then the first day before the Friday, the 9th, his secretary called me to say that the Prime Minister will not be available on Friday and he would like to see us today, which is the first day. So I said, but we can't. Thursday morning after 9, minutes to 10 in the morning, the Prime Minister is calling to meet us. We're not just sitting there waiting for a call. So it's not possible, and so forth. So I said, if we can't meet him on Friday, we'll make a document available, and so on. She said, okay, we did that. She signed to receive it, and so we haven't heard from him, except that he went on Kyrie with Christian,
The acolytes.
and tried to malign and belittle Nicholas George, Pastor Rodney, and myself, and so forth. He went as far as saying, I'm signing letters, I don't know what I'm signing. I'm serving government, I have been in this thing since I was 13.
Yeah.
I'm not a child now, if I don't know what I'm signing. And they can tell you that most of the letters we draft, we read, and so forth. And I know none of us on the ARC would write any letter to the Prime Minister that's insulting, and so forth. We haven't heard from him. As Mr. George said, we heard from the President's office. And I met Duncan Stowe in town the same day, and he said there was a miscommunication because he had asked his office to arrange for us for 10:30. I said, we did 10:30, and we had sent a letter, but there was a miscommunication. We haven't heard from him, the chairman of the Electoral Commission. But what I said, I'm saying that, remember when Sir Dennis Barron was appointed, He said for him to start his work, there must be a commission in place. Remember that? I'm sure you all
Yes,
remember that. Because there was not a commission. And they moved quickly to appoint the commission. The president at the time, Charles Safre, even swear them in separately.
Yes,
right?
he did. Yeah.
And normally, under normal circumstances, they all would be
same place,
and being,
Actually, the United Workers' Party nominated two, and the president swore in these two.
Yes.
So there were two members of the commission,
Mhm.
and three others were missing, including the chairman.
Yes, and so on. And then when Sudan's Baron presented his report, he said he consulted with the Electoral Commission, and they agreed with him. So most of what is in his report is things that the commission, the Electoral Commission, agreed with, and so on. So the Prime Minister sought to embarrass them by now getting a new group with the Attorney General to do a new set of drafting.
Did he ever speak about besides the Attorney General? Did he speak
No,
about
no, no.
the other members of that
No,
group?
Jamasak. So we don't know who the people are, and so on. And they're doing our work, and we don't know who they are.
No idea who all these other people are?
No, we only hear about the Attorney General, and even in Parliament during the budget debate, when he was making his contribution, the Prime Minister, he said he wanted to commend the Attorney General and so forth for the work done. So if he knew the Attorney General was so brilliant and able to do that, why pay $700,000 from taxpayers' money to sit in his Baron and the lady who drafted to do this work? So he's in a real confusion. And Matt, we heard about the question of fingerprint and want to criminalize the voting process. But on the application for the CBI applicants, it has as a condition, yes, fingerprinting and so on. So as a prime minister, you have to speak the truth to people. In another country, he would be expelled. In the United States, he would be sanctioned. He would be called to the Senate committee, to find out what are you talking about, and so on.
Almost all of us love to go to the US.
Right.
And the requirement to get a visa, fingerprints, it's nothing strange.
Are we not criminals?
Exactly, not criminals.
Let's take a phone call. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Hey, Matt, how you doing today? I'm happy that I'm open bats today.
All right, Bats.
Good day, guys.
Good day.
Matt, I got a question of any one of them, Mr. Bolson might, you could answer. How do you enforce, because you guys talk about, the Labour Party is always paying for people to come down to vote. Let me just give you a quick example. If you have, let's say, election call, you have people dressed in red coming down on a ferry from Godlook. Everybody's red, Labour Party. How would you enforce to know who paid for these people tickets? Anybody could answer me?
Well, I would say to the caller, I thank him for calling. I'm glad that he's the open batsman. That's what he said. We're happy about that. But I would say to him, though, we are living in a small country and we know things. In fact, even persons who were organizers in this event, let us know. There's a particular guy, I'll not call his name, he was one of those who were organizing. And when he realized what was happening, he backed off. I know a guy from the Grand Bay area. A guy from Maho.
Yeah.
I know a guy from the...
So I know too.
You know too, yes. I know a guy from the Grand Bay area who I don't know where he's from. He's from Grand Bay, but what country he was in.
Right.
But they organized and he had to say that he's a Labourite to get on the flight. When he get to Dominica, they found that he was not a Labourite and so on. He's actually a Freedomite, but was voting UW because Freedom Party was not running.
Right.
You know what happened? He did not go back. He had to pay his own way to get back to that country. So it's not a secret there. The caller knows very well that we know those things. We have tapes, we have records of these things. So nothing you can hide about. So if Labourites or Freedomites or UWPites, wherever they are, when they come and vote and they pay their way, they organize themselves, and they are on the voters list and not out for more than 5 years, so we have no issue with that, But we know for a fact that the Labour Party has paid for persons to come in, and nobody can hide away from that.
Nobody. You wanted to make an...
Yes. In the clipping you just played, the Prime Minister said that our ancestors wouldn't be pleased. But it'd be interesting to know, it probably is from our letter to him that he got this, On the 12th of June of this year, this is what we wrote to the Prime Minister. Rather than fostering divisive political platforms, it would be better to invoke the lives and resistance spirits of our national heroes in the personages of Carib Chief Warner, Jaco, Bala, Congaree, and Facel. Embrace the vision of fighters and liberators of freedom, fairness, justice, and peace, the likes of Marcus Garvey, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela. You should immediately begin to implement initiatives to dismantle the institutionalization of hatred, corruption, nepotism, unaccountability, questionable and unethical actions in the public affairs of state. The dark days of slavery and colonizations are at the backs of every Dominican citizen. Don't re-engage in these ungodly actions which blighted our past. Instituting of moral values. Please commence instituting faithfulness in our Heavenly Father, integrity, accountability, and transparency in the governance of Dominica. Embrace inclusivity over exclusivity in the matters of state, such as engaging in respectful dialogue with the citizenry on the history-making bills that are about to be taken to Parliament for debate, passage, and eventual assent by Her Excellency the President. Make Dominica the envy of the world as a country where love, respect, dialogue, obedience to God's laws, respect of every citizen irrespective of political, religious, economic, or social status abounds, where laws are passed and assented to through participation, dialogue, and consensus. That is in the letter we wrote to the Prime Minister. The letter, he said, was disrespectful to him. We're asking him to embrace the values of Nelson Mandela. And then he goes into Parliament and shames Nelson Mandela by talking foolishness.
On the telephone, yes? You're back.
Matt, why did you hang up on me so fast? I'm trying to have a discussion with you.
But didn't he end the conversation? He tell me.
I got the impression he ended the conversation.
I got the impression. No, but hold on. Because you want to remain there and ask a few questions. It's a request. Do you want me to keep you here so you can ask a few questions? Al?
Okay.
Yeah,
Mr. Boso, I can't believe you gave me an answer like that. But let me come back. Let me just come back 1 second. Matt, don't hang up, okay?
No, go
Mr.
ahead.
Boso, what if I had to tell you UWP was doing the same thing back in the days? You know the first thing you'd tell me? You'd say, boy, go get your evidence. So from you telling me, you know, a partner from Granby tell you, they know that. Where's the evidence? You can't go to court with that, Mr. Boso. You know that.
But let me tell you. Hold on. Al, are you aware that people have to take pictures of their votes in that booth?
You cannot take that to court.
No, I'm saying, but you can take the pictures of that vote to court, won't you? Won't you be able to do that?
You know what Matt, let Mr. Boso answer. You're not in a freedom.
No, I'm asking. Well, Boso can answer, but I'm telling you, there are pictures taken there to see on that ballot paper where you have voted. Are you aware of that?
Matt, you know what I'm aware of? When I was a young boy growing up, Matt, I remember UWP getting tickets from Mostyn's Trading, Matt. I remember that.
Hold on. Go ahead, boss.
let me answer him. He said I would say to him, go and get your evidence. No,
Yeah.
not about him that way.
No.
I would say to him, in 2000,
Yes.
we thought that UWP was not governing us properly, and we changed them. And a lot of the things that he's talking about now, these are the things that we thought was not right.
Right.
And we changed them. So did we put labor there to do the same thing or worse? We put you there to correct what we felt or what you all felt was wrong. So why continue in the wrong thing, okay, in this manner, and then feel that your excuse now is to tell us about UWP? These are since 2000.
Add to that. Hold on. I want. Are you there?
Yes.
You love that answer?
Yes. Mr. Boso, I'm happy that you admit UWP was doing it. Anyway, have a pleasant day.
But hold on.
So Labour Party is not doing it.
Hold on.
No, you said that.
But none of that really matters, None of that matters. Why do we want a situation where we have to go to court and we have to prove this and prove that? And we know some of these things might be difficult to prove. We know that.
Yeah.
Isn't it better to just clean the whole thing? Isn't it better to just ensure that those who are eligible to be on the list are on the list, so you do a proper confirmation and you avoid all that problem. Isn't it better to ensure that no one can go wrong voting multiple times? So all we're asking for, so there's no need to say, we did it, or the Labour Party did it, or
Just
whoever
stop it.
did
Two wrongs
it.
can't make
Just stop it. Just
That's right.
fix it
Fix
so
it.
well
Two wrongs
that
can't
nobody will be able to do it.
That's what I'm telling
That's
you.
all we're
Yes,
asking
yes.
for.
Two wrongs can't make a right.
And what they want to do, Matt, is to legislate the loopholes. So now, rather of doing it illegally, they have the legal backing now to exploit the loopholes. And we're saying, it's Norman Manley who said, while you're in government, do not pass laws that you can't live by when you're out of government.
Good question.
So fix it.
Hello, talk to me on the telephone.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
I have my question is, well, let me make a statement first. Regarding the fingerprints on the voter card, personally, I'm not for it, even though my fingerprint was given to the American government when I applied for a green card in America. But the circumstances in terms of that and getting the CBI passport are different because I'm coming into a country. If someone is entering Dominica, Dominica has the right to ask them for their passport, for the fingerprint. For someone born in the country, I have a right to privacy so that my kids who are born in the US, their fingerprints are not in the American government system, nor are my fingerprints in the Dominican government system because I was born in Dominica. That's my right to privacy. But that, I think, it goes beyond, is irrelevant to me because I wonder about how do you check people's fingerprints at the polling booth. You have to have fingerprint reading machines in every booth. But that's beside the point. The point I really want to ask about is this. Everyone agrees, I think, that the Constitution grants us the right to petition the government for redress in any way. It does not restrict the avenue by which you can make that presentation to the government, nor does it say that the government is only the Parliament of Dominica or the Cabinet of Dominica. So my question is, why is it that in all these efforts, we do not, maybe I ask a question. Has there been a formal presentation to the President of Dominica, who is the head of state in Dominica?
The answer to caller is yes.
He said yes.
So, okay, so there has been, and what has the President told you?
We met the president. We have a delegation of 9 of us who met the president. We discussed. She told us what she can do in this matter and her advice, and she can warn and advise, and she'll use her influence in these areas, and so on.
So in other words, the president did not give you the redress that the Constitution says that you have a right to ask of her?
The president simply said that there are certain things that are within her authority and certain things that are not within her authority. In that matter, it's not within her authority, but she can advise.
Get that?
She can advise. You know, the president doesn't advise. The president gets advice from the prime minister. She doesn't advise.
No. She can advise the
That's
president.
what
You
the
have it
Prime
wrong.
Minister said. We're not arguing what you asked us a question, and we're telling you. We cannot distort what happened in the president's office when she met with us. This is what she said. What Mr. Ken Vittel said to you. That is what the Prime Minister said. We're reporting it.
The president said. Yes, are you there? Yes.
All right. Okay.
All right. Well, that's what the president said. She cannot. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
In any case, he said about the fingerprint, and he gave this fingerprint to U.S. government. Does that make him a criminal in the United States? No, obviously not, and so on. That is the requirement of the
US government.
the U.S. government. I think in the Antigua ID card has fingerprint.
Mm-hmm.
All these features is there in the card and
Biometrics.
and biometrics. And the thing is, I heard somebody talk about every 5 years you have to do a card. No, your information will be on the system. And I have the experience in St. Lucia that if your card lost, you just go to the office responsible and you give your name, and they go in the system, bram, and they ask if you have any new information they know, and they just print your card. It's not a big issue.
Hello, yes?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
What is very strange with my homeland Dominica and my fellow Dominicans, they have no waste their energy to challenge the man who claimed he's prime minister. Why are they scared of him? What is in him that they're so scared of him? Yet Dominicans who are living in Dominica, they have so much energy when it comes to American politics. It's not strange.
Very strange. Very strange. Let's look another phone call. Are you there, caller?
Yes, I'm there. Good afternoon,
Good afternoon to you.
gentlemen.
Yes.
A question I'd like to ask. When we have that machine readable passport, they say it was a rush to get that passport. What was the main purpose of we getting that passport? Can anybody tell me?
Well, you got.
Go ahead.
Well, for sure.
Yes.
But it looks like internationally there's a move to ensure that passports not just are machine readable, but there are certain data they will ultimately be put into passports. So you see the same thing the Prime Minister talked about, like the fingerprints, that can easily be put in and can be read. So the whole platform that has been created is one that can accept biodata. The very thing he is saying that is criminalizing people's effort is ready. We already have the system, not just Dominica, Barbados, all of us. We all have the system where you can put in all of that information. So the whole reason was to create an IT type of platform where all of that kind of information on people can be corrected. Can be collected. So
Are you there?
Another question.
Yes.
Somebody asked me the question. The person that asked Bosso the question, he should be the best person to answer that question for himself, man. The person that called you from the state about getting Dominicans and how sure are we the people are being paid or getting a ticket to come now.
Your friend Blue, I suspect you know a lot about him.
Matt, you should question him on that. Ask him what about that. He should maybe answer you on that. Bye-bye.
Hello, talk to me on the telephone. What telephone calls? It's 2:19 in the afternoon. Talk to me. We're talking electoral reform. Are you there, caller? Yes?
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
I'm trying my best, sir.
Okay. Great topic this afternoon.
Okay.
Gentlemen, I believe that, as far as I'm concerned, this Prime Minister and this Labour Party has been taking Dominic on a ride, for over and over again. What we're discussing there, we've discussed it before. Voter ID card with fingerprints, cleansing of the voters list, use of the radio station, but most importantly, campaign finance reform. What the government make it appear as if it's a fight between the Dominica Labour Party and the United Workers' Party. It is something for Dominica. And so, what we need to understand clearly is that the major problems we are having is Dominicans overseas coming down to vote. And I think Bosso hit a right note. You got the United Workers' Party out in 2000 because they brought down people. That was a bad thing. So we put in the Labour Party so you can clean that up. That being said, I think that there are two things that the populace need to understand. There's a difference between eligible to vote and being a citizen, and eligible to vote and qualified to vote. So there are two. Qualified means that you're either born Dominican or you were naturalized. Eligible, in most jurisdictions around the world in democracies, you have to be living in a particular address, in a particular polling district and polling station, at least, in most instances, 90 days and continuously before the next election. So if you come to vote, you live, yes, you're a qualified Dominican. You qualified to vote. Your name, you think your name should be on the list, fine. But at that time, that voting period, you cannot vote because you lived in Atlanta, Georgia. Even if you came here for 4 months, 6 months, what is your ordinary place of residence? That, I think, is key. And I'm saying that, and I'm hoping Dominicans overseas understand, that you are the problem in Dominica. Without you coming down to vote and creating this chaos that we're having in Dominica, we would not be sitting here today talking about electoral reform. But you all allow yourselves to be conned by this political party and to be preparing, having meetings overseas, planning to come down here. Some of you are overseas for over 30, 40 years, but you are the ones campaigning overseas to bring people down to vote. This is wrong, and this, the country you want to come back to, or if you do want to come back, you are creating all this chaos. And I'm saying to you, this is an appeal to Dominicans overseas who come down to vote. And this is an appeal to the Prime Minister and the Dominican Labour Party. Stop this practice and let us have clean and clear electoral reform. Not something to benefit UWP, not something to benefit DLP or anybody else. But the way the Prime Minister is getting on is like a fight. Oh, you see me do this, and so Labour Party will organize to fight you all. It makes it us against them. And that is so wrong. So I appeal to the people, please listen to the Electoral Reform Coalition, which is a group of political parties and civic and social organizations in Dominica that have all come together in an effort to resolve this electoral stalemate. And I hope you understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. To more telephone calls coming in here, 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. Hello, talk to me.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mark.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Mark, I always listen to your program. But you know, something hurting me, sometimes when people like that never say something good for the country, they're taking a lot of time and they're getting the chance, but that's good. They're Dominicans as well. But Matt, I called to ask Mr. Scary that question. Anytime you play the clip, Matt, it shakes me. Mr. Scary, will Dominicans lose their lives at the expense of you stay in power? That's a question I keep on asking, Matt. But Matt, I want to say something quickly about Mr. Linton.
Mm-hmm.
I heard us turning around, spinning around. Mr. Linton already make it clear. He gave an example. He said, if a husband is doing something wrong in a house, in a family, will the wife, if the wife is doing the same thing, will there be anything to ease the pain they're going through? He said, no. Because my wife is doing something wrong, I cannot be doing it wrong too, so I'm going to correct it. So he said, you don't care whether it's United Workers' Party, if it's Freedom Party, if it's Labour Party that used to give people tickets before. If it's wrong, let's come to the end of it and let's stop it, because if it's wrong, it is wrong. And what is having that to understand? Mark, you see some documents I sent to you. I'm contributing to Dominica. And that it is wrong for me to lift a dollar to come and vote for the people in Dominica. It is a crime. People in the diaspora, please, this time stop it, because Dominica is at the bottom. Thank you, Matt, for the opportunity.
Thank you. You know, as he said, two wrongs just can't make it right, huh?
That's exactly. That's what we've been saying all along, you know. That's the dialogue we're asking for with the Prime Minister. But the Prime Minister thinks or that this is a fight between two political parties. No. When the Constitution was being crafted and drafted, a joint delegation went to England, you know, from the different political parties. And they dialogued in London days and nights to agree to what is within the Constitution. And I'm saying to you that the electoral laws are the second most important bits of legislation to Dominica, because it is these laws that give effect to the Constitution. The Constitution comes alive when there is a parliament, because many of the appointments within the Constitution have to be done by parliamentary representatives. The Prime Minister is one of them. If he's going to get the chief elections officer appointed, the director of audit, the accountant general, the permanent secretaries, all these powers, they're given to him by laws that emanated from the Constitution. So, these laws, it is not the passage or an amendment to the Offenses Against the Persons Act or the Drug Act or Domestic Violence Act. That is not what it is. This is the law that says the framework, the roadmap to good and accountable governance in Dominica. That's what we want the Prime Minister to embrace, not to go in our parliament and insult us. The Prime Minister is not more intelligent than us. He didn't go to any university where he graduated with a degree in prime ministership. Whatever degree he has, many of us and many more of us have those degrees that he has at a higher level. So we are more intelligent than him. That the fact that he goes into parliament does not give him the right to insult any Dominican, far less to threaten them. He wasn't elected to do that. He was elected to govern and to seek consensus with the citizenry of Dominica. That's what he's elected to do.
Let's take a break and take a song there, that's very deep. Let's do this and come back. Something inside me so strong.
The higher you build your barriers, the taller I become. The farther you take my rights away, the faster I will run. You can deny me, you can decide to turn your face away. No matter what, there's something inside strong.
Something inside me so strong. I know.
Make it.
You're doing me wrong, so wrong.
So wrong. But that my pride was gone. Oh no. Something inside so strong. Oh, oh. Something inside so strong. The more you refuse to hear my voice,
The more you refuse to hear my voice, huh?
louder I will sing. You hide behind walls of Jericho.
Hide behind walls of Jericho.
Your lies will come tumbling. Deny my place in time. You squander wealth and find my light will shine so brightly it will blind you, because there's something inside so strong. I know that I can make it, but you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone. Oh no, there's something inside so strong.
A song for the patriots of Dominica.
So strong.
Every time I hear this song, it inspires me, huh? I don't know about you.
Brothers and sisters, let me insist we just not get enough. Well, we know better.
Just look them in the eyes and say,
We're gonna do it
we're gonna do it anyway.
We're gonna do it anyway. do it anyway. Something inside so strong. You know that I can make it. Doing me wrong, so
Go on YouTube and Google that one, huh? Something inside me so strong.
there's something inside so strong. Whoa, there's something inside so strong.
All right, let's go back to the telephone. Give the people what they want. Hello, talk to me on the telephone. Good afternoon to you. Oh, yes. Just hello.
Good afternoon, Matt.
How
Good
you doing, my
afternoon to your
brother?
guest.
All right.
Good afternoon to you, Matt, and to your guest.
Yeah,
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, Matt, when we say that Roosevelt Skerritt is taunting, provoking the Dominican people, it is not in a vacuum. Roosevelt Skerritt has been provoking, and he does not account for anything. He's unaccountable. So that's one of the most important things in good governance in a democracy. He does not account. We don't know how much money is out there. We don't know how he's spending it. We don't know who he gave it to, or we have an idea. But, he taunts. He says all kinds of strange, bizarre things. And to give you an example, the one about the fish, where he stands in Parliament and says, a guy told me that he makes $45,000 at the end of the day when he check his money. You know what I'm saying? He's not quoting from the fisheries division what fishermen make. He's just coming up and tell us a guy told him. That is totally reckless. That is an indicator. It's not the main point, but it's an example of how reckless Roosevelt Skerritt is. And the people of Dominica must understand that he is reckless and that we must remove him. And somehow or other, people have to understand that they must change their vote. They cannot be loyal to the Dominica Labour Party with a head that is rotten, that is not good and accountable. They have to change their vote. And that is one of the ways to get rid of him. A mass change in consciousness and voting him out of office. It's difficult because we don't have, but if we all decide to remove Roosevelt Skerritt, we can remove him. He must stop fooling. Or people of the Dominica Labour Party, you must stop being fooled by this gentleman. It's all about him. It's not about you and your children. Enough said, Matt.
Enough said. Let's go to the overseas line. Hello, talk to me.
Yes, good evening to you, Matt, to your
good evening.
panelists and to your listeners.
Good evening.
Matt, I'd like you to give me just a little chance to interact with the guys today.
All right,
if you
go
don't
ahead.
mind.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
First of all, we had a caller from the U.S. who made all sorts of accusations about the UWP doing this, that, and the other, and that's why they were changed, etc., etc., etc. There's massive difference, right? Whether we agree or disagree on what supposedly the UWP did when they were in power, which resulted in them being changed, whether we agree or disagree on that, the massive difference is that the UWP respected the results of the election and moved on. Roosevelt will not do that. Okay? So that is a main difference there. Now, in terms of bringing people in, flying people in and so on, Tony Astafan, who said that he can talk on behalf of the Prime Minister no matter where he is and what he's up to, said openly and clearly, we will fly them in. We will bring them in by boat, by plane, however we want to bring them in. So there's no doubt about that. Now, I'd like to ask you guys just a few questions. First of all, under the present circumstances, seeing that the Electoral Commission is the body with the responsibility to run the elections, prepare for elections, clean the list, etc., should we really be giving ourselves all this headache with Roosevelt Skerritt and his government? Or should we not be putting massive pressure and letters left, right, and center to the Electoral Commission? How is it that you have a leader of the Electoral Commission tasked with such a responsibility who has spoken only once on the day when he was made the head of the commission, and he's never spoken since. How is it that this man is allowed to remain so silent despite what is happening with this reform bill? Now, I'd like to ask Bosso and my good friend from Colio.
Nicholas George.
Right, Nicholas George. People who have been in Parliament and have experience and know about Parliament. You know what bothers me the most about this whole thing here?
Mm-hmm.
The gentleman dragged his feet for as long as he has, and then took taxpayers' money, $600 and something thousand, and paid for somebody who he said when they bring the information to him, the recommendations to him, he's going to take it straight before Parliament. Instead, he wasted the people's money and ignored the recommendations and threw them in the bin, and has his Attorney General come with a full body of work, which he claims that the ERC agrees with 95 or 98% of it, but doesn't want to say what is it that they disagree with in a small percentage that they disagree with. I'd like to ask the gentleman who in Parliament, is it not normal practice when you want to tweak legislation that you go before Parliament with the specific legislative changes that you want to make? Present that in Parliament, the 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 sentences, and say these sentences say X, Y, and Z, and we would like to replace it with A, B, and C. Is that not the way that is done normally?
Also, question.
So why is it that Roosevelt Skerritt and his government have come with a body of work, 300 and something pages of work, after they've thrown away what was paid for, $600,000, and come with a full body of work to put before the Dominican people, where the vast majority of us Dominicans, if we have to read those 350 pages or however many pages they are, we will not do it because we won't understand most of what is being said. I believe that they have done that deliberately to confuse the people instead of coming with the specific bodies, the specific sentences that could have been changed when the rest of the legislation was fine, was workable, has worked for years. So all you had to do was tweak it. And finally, my friend, I'd like to say, if you have a disease, an illness, and you're getting symptom after symptom after symptom, telling you that this illness is within your body and it's going to kill you, and you have a chance to change it, you have a chance to change the direction by changing certain things about yourself, would you not do it? Why is it that we keep getting warning after warning after warning about this government and what it's doing to our country and our people, and we keep ignoring it? Are we going to wait for the final straw when the Bank of America or the one other corresponding bank decides to pull out tonight, and tomorrow we end up like Venezuela ended up, where we cannot get any money from overseas, from our families who want to send us a little bit of help because we no longer have a corresponding bank? People are going to continue sleeping when they keep getting the symptoms, and they're going to keep ignoring the symptoms until the economy collapses just because of one man, Roosevelt Skerritt. Come on, my people, wake up.
All right, thank you very much.
Well, man, the caller gave quite a lot. It's quite a lot, and very interesting and very important points that he raised. On the question of the current legislation, I mean, there are some areas we want to amend in it, we want to change. But the Prime Minister hired Sir Dennis Byron, and
he's paying no attention to that.
To give a consultancy. And when Dennis Byron completed his work and was about to do the report, he consulted the Prime Minister and talked about the drafting the legislation, and the Prime Minister agreed. And he found a lady with special skill to do that. And I think the Prime Minister paid him $250,000 and then he asked for another 250,000 to pay the lady, so the total of $700,000, right? And so on. Normally, as the caller said, what comes to Parliament, you have the current bill, and you have what is good in it, what you want to amend in the current bill. It comes to Parliament and so forth, and people look at it, and the changes are made. But what we have seen is a complete, as he said,
New body of
new
law.
body of
Of
legislations and so on. And then he have ignored that completely for the side. He made no reference to it, what we have paid for, because I think he is very much caught with his pants down in terms of didn't get what he wanted then. He wanted Sebastian Byron to use the taxpayers' money to give him things that he himself would feel happy with. And mark you, we've had the OAS, CARICOM, Commonwealth, who came, did a consultancy. And the very same thing that we are saying, the very same thing that there is a team of local businessmen, unions, and the church put together, said the same thing. That we didn't have to pay that money because we all had it there, the UWP, the CCM, Consciousness Movement, the Freedom Party, all these groups have said the same thing. And it's only the Prime Minister who wants something different and so forth. And therefore, he's playing away now in a kind of very dishonest way to see if he could get his way to continue to remain in office with laws that they could exploit to remain there. So the caller is correct on the points you have made in terms of how we. But the other thing I want to say, Matt, quickly, they do, is in terms of the Electoral Commission. And he's right, the chair. We have not been hearing the chairman of the commission, and his role and the commission role is to be referees between the voters and the politician. Roosevelt Skerrit has the same authority, I would say, like the UWP leader, the Freedom Party leader in this discussion, because he's leader of a party. As Prime Minister, we offered him the courtesy as Prime Minister, and he was at the time Minister of Finance. You offer him the courtesy. But in terms of the discussion of reform, he has the same involvement like the UWP leader, the Freedom Party leader, and so on. And another thing I would encourage Dominicans to do is you can write to the commission yourself. Assist us by writing to them, because we are taking on our own to write to ensure we get the right thing for Dominica. So if you write to them and tell them you're dissatisfied with the work that they're doing, then it puts a little more pressure on them to do the right thing.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back, Dominica. We are here with, of course, the talk on the block. Coming back.
Dominicans, enjoy your property, protect your property. You homeowner and businessman, protect your property, enjoy your property. Can't wait for the hurricane. Can't wait till you flood again. Can't wait till your roof fly out and all your business coming out. Remember, no insurance company will insure your property when a storm is approaching. Get ahead of the hurricane season and insure with a company who gives you the assurance of payment for your valid claim. Come speak with us today at the New India Assurance Company Limited, upstairs AC Shillingford and Company Limited, 24 King George Street, Roseau. Bring along an up-to-date valuation from a qualified engineer and get insured today. When you want the best, what you do? Shop at SCS. Better than the rest. Go shop at SCS. And they all compare. Shop at SCS. You get more for what they say. Shop at SCS. Shop at SCS. Yeah. Shop at SCS. Shop at SCS. What they say. Shop at SCS. SCS family, customer friendly, with relocations, it's so convenient, and our prices, they are the nicest. Madam and Mister, that's where you belong. So tell your mama, tell your papa, shop at SCS. Tell your son and your daughter, shop at SCS. Auntie, nan, and cousin, friend, open power, all of them. Grandma, grandpa, open neighbor, girlfriend, boyfriend, side. What? Shop at SCS. Shop at SCS. Shop at SCS. Shop at SCS. Check us out at
Pottersville, High Street, and downtown Rose.
Personne passe à dire pour dire nous. But if they could, they would say something like this. I like Linus Vepladu. Et mon tell my content, my family brought me to Linus after I die. And the way Linus took care of my body with respect and dignity, m'a jamais tapé kate ou spécial à l'émoté vivant. Linus Funeral Home, 30 years of experience, professional, reliable and compassionate service. We've had 24-hour emergency service. So là, mon numéro, pas quitter un rien bas ou dire. Qui est 449-1800, 275-7564, 449-2100, or the emergency number 277-1800. Ever quitter tout busy in Linus. That time is for you to breathe and grieve. Linus is not willing that any should die, but Bobot, Zandra, you must go. So when you go with the best chaperone. Linus Funeral Home. Maman tout famille, si c'est pas Linus, il va venir à l'été.
Our numbers are 449-1800, 449-2100, 275-7564, and 276-0400. Call Lyndhurst Funeral Home today.
Mon crayon pas prendre sommeil.
By popular demand, the Creole Headweek revisits the importance of the Creole language. This September 13th on the big station Q95 FM from 11 a.m. Special guests, former Chief Cultural Officer and President of KEC, Raymond Lawrence, Madam Sonia Akpa, a linguist and founding member of KEC, Charlene White Christian, a linguist in the Ministry of Education, and Dr. Simone Batier. We'll take your questions and discuss important areas such as are we placing enough emphasis on the Creole language? Should the language be compulsory in schools? Should the Creole language policy be given priority by the authorities? What about the language accepted and spoken in Parliament? Join us this Friday, September 30th, 11 a.m. on the Big Station Q95 FM. Also on Q95 Facebook page and YouTube channel. Sponsored by Digicel Creole Headbit, connecting Dominica to its history. Creole Headbit, a front row seat into the culture of Dominica.
What's in his away? Mama put it there. From the cradle to the grave, you don't want to be no slave. You need a loan, you want to stay. Welcome and visit us today. Hey, with a commitment to quality. What? Therefore you and me was one big family, but now it's a community. Making life easy, yes, like ABP. Don't matter who you are, you can benefit. When you bring your mortgage
with rates as low as 5% and loans for all your needs.
Open an MRA.
Save for your golden years and take advantage of our savings product.
We will finance your business.
Checking accounts, small business loans, wire transfers, and so much more.
See you all the way.
Wow! Your community financial partner.
NCCU.
It's time again to activate your Guap Jam. It's on again the annual Walk for Cancer Care under the theme Hope in Every Step. As always and as before, we encourage the kind and usual support of the general public. This year's walkathon will take place in both Roseau and Portsmouth simultaneously on October 6th. The Roseau Walk for Cancer Care will begin at the National Bank Canesville branch and will proceed to the Windsor Park Sports Stadium. At Portsmouth, the Walk for Cancer will begin at the Pebble Tittle Bellhall Beach area to the Benjamin's Park. There will be musical accompaniment. There will be survival stories and messages from cancer survivors and others. Remember, the annual Walk for Cancer Care is on October 6th in Roseau and Portsmouth. And don't forget to make your generous cash contributions along the way. T-shirts will go on sale early, and we anticipate your continued support from the general public. On your mark, get set. Join the walkathon, for it's time to activate your Guap Jam.
All right, Dominica, we have 9 more minutes. I'm going to allow my panel here to wrap it up here. In a while, we're talking electoral reform. So, Bosso, when do you expect? I mean, you're not a government minister or official just yet, but
I hope so.
I have high hopes for you. All right. So when do you expect the Prime Minister to go to Parliament? We've been talking about. He says he's going to Parliament last month. I've not seen that. When do you expect that?
Well, I don't know now because he said he was waiting on the Electoral Commission and then asked for an extra time and so on. The tempers elapses and so on. So I don't know what else in his mind and so on. I understand the Electoral Commission, they're still consulting, they're still discussing.
Still discussing.
And there are issues that they felt, listen, some of the things that we're raising as well, that they felt the Prime Minister should be given consideration.
But he did say he doesn't have to take any of the suggestions on board, you know.
Well, it's only an ignorant that would behave that way. An ignorant.
Call him an ignorant?
Yeah, an ignorant that would behave that way. And I have no apology saying that. I'll tell you why. Because, I mean, Mr. George made the point earlier on, as a government, as a leader, you have to lead and lead well.
You have to listen.
And you have to listen. And there's what we call settled practice. How things have worked in the past. We should want it to work even better going forward. And therefore, the commission have always guided. They are the referee in our electoral process. And therefore, you have to respect the rule that they are. Because Mr. George will speak in a while, but make the point that this is the only body that any lawsuit in the parliament, the government has to consult. And the reason why the commission itself is not going to parliament is because they can't go to parliament. So the minister responsible will take it to parliament. And therefore, the minister can't be ignorant. He has to listen and discuss with them and so on.
Yeah, but the thing is, and it's unique, it is the only organization in Dominica that anytime laws are going to be passed in parliament that pertains to that organization, the Electoral Reform, the Electoral Commission, they must be consulted. The laws, the draft laws, must be sent to them for their review. And there has to be an inherent purpose for that. It cannot be left to the Prime Minister to determine that merely because there's no legislative requirement for him to accept the recommendations or discuss it with them any further.
He said he doesn't have to listen.
That he says he doesn't have to listen because, yeah, there's a void. The law doesn't say that he has to listen. But there has to be a reason why. Why the DBS Corporation, there's no stipulation for them to do that. There's no other, the Boundaries Commission, all right, the Police Service Commission, the Public Service Commission, they are all commissions constituted under the Constitution. And if you go in to pass laws that pertain to these commissions, they don't have to be consulted. So there has to be, that's why I said earlier, that the legislative laws that we are talking about now are the second most important bits of legislation in the governance of our country. And that is why our forebears put that there, that if you're going to amend that, you must consult the commission. And it goes now to the issue of the composition of the commission itself. And so Dennis Byron, in his wisdom, recommended, he accepted that the provision in the Constitution will not be changed. But the criteria required of the member that is going to be nominated can change. So you can say that a person must have a degree in this, a person must have experience in that and so on. And at least one woman. The Prime Minister and the Attorney General has not explained to Dominica why they jettisoned that provision. Why does the Prime Minister not want a woman on the Electoral Commission? That's a recommendation from Dennis, at least one. Then the campaign finance, they jettisoned that completely. Mr. Attorney General, you must say to Dominicans why, not just tell us that it is a regional issue and we must discuss it no, not in the region. Let me tell you, on the 9th, in 2014, the observer mission on the elections of 2014 said that there's a requirement for campaign finance in our legislation. 2014. And every other commission has observed the absence of that and have recommended that. The CCJ said, don't go back to an election with these things or similar things. It is the inadequacy of the law that allows for you to have so much money that the first person who called, that they can be allowed to purchase an election, corruptly purchase an election. In the 2019 election, there was a document circulated that the Labour Party had budgeted $72 million for the election. The Labour Party, unlike the other parties, did not do any fundraising in Dominica that we know of. So if you have $72 million from donors, that is an investment. That is an investment in our heritage, and we're seeing it in our faces now. So this caller must understand, why is it now that every public sector investment program in Dominica is managed by a foreign company? It is because these companies may have contributed 10, 50, or not contributed, invested that kind of money. You understand?
I understand, but Ken, I'm going to give you your final comments here. I mean,
Right.
a very interesting discussion here going on. I'm sure we'll have part two sometime. We'll come back. Let's take.
We need to, but there's some. But let me just end with something that was said earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
But the Prime Minister seemed to want Dominicans to fight against Dominicans, but we will not do that. Our beef is not with any other Dominican. As a matter of fact, when he talk about organizing the Labour Party, I don't think it's the Labour Party he wants to organize, because the ordinary Labour, I don't want to come into conflict with me and you. In fact, from what I said earlier on, the ordinary Labourites are beginning to see, and the eyes are beginning to open. They begin to realize the evil and the wickedness, and they want him out. They just were too scared to talk because they don't want to lose the little benefits that they were getting. So he's not able to organize the Labour Party to fight against our fellow men, and we will not do that. Our struggle is not with our Dominicans. But you know who will organize? He will try to organize his Navy SEALs. He'll try to organize his criminal elements, that's for sure. He may try to organize some of the policemen who are wicked. He might organize some of those groups, but he cannot organize labor rights against freedom rights, against human rights, because all of us want a better for Dominica, and we are not in the space where we want to fight against each other. So that's not what it's about. It's about the best for Dominica. And labor rights want the best for Dominica, the good ones, and many of them are good labor rights. And the Europeites. So I just want to say to everyone, don't give up hope. What's the song you had there earlier on that you love so much?
You mean a tune from Kenny Rogers?
Yes.
Something inside me so strong.
Something inside me so strong. We will make it, Dominicans. Labor rights, Europeites, freedom rights, for Dominica's sake. Let's not make a few thugs led by the Prime Minister bring our country to the drain.
Boss, I'll give you the final word.
Yes, well, Mark, thank you so much for having us this afternoon, and for your listeners listening at home and abroad, and for the callers who called, ask questions, made comment. We appreciate that. And of course, my colleagues Kent and Mr. George who are here. And as you said, we'll have a part 2 and part 3 and part 4 and part.
Of course, once the electoral
reform,
we'll talk.
Because we need to get proper electoral reform that all of us can rally around, and our election can be free and fair and transparent, and we can elect the government of our choice, because elections have consequences.
Thank you. Something inside me, I'm going to wrap up that one.
The higher you build your barriers, the taller I become. The farther you take my rights away, the faster I will run. You can deny me, you can decide to turn your face away. No matter, 'cause there's something inside so wrong. I know that I can make it. You're doing me wrong.
Why pay full price for your mobile when you can pay half? Just bundle your home internet and mobile services with Flow and save 50% on your mobile bill. That's money in your pocket every month. Plus, now you get free YouTube and WhatsApp data. And you can share your plan with up to 3 other numbers. Upgrade now and get a free smartphone. Switch and keep your number. Learn more at discoverflow.co.
How we live? Hybrid life. Living a hybrid life. We live hybrid life. Living a hybrid life. Time we now watch phone bill. That's with the contract is a sure thing. How with the new floor plan name? If you don't know about it, then they better slide in. How we live? Hybrid life. Living a hybrid life. We live hybrid life. Living a hybrid life. In a hybrid life. Living a hybrid life. We live hybrid life. Living a hybrid life.
With Flow's new hybrid plan, postpaid and prepaid come together as one with no overages, no contract, no deposit, and no catch.
Hybrid!
Bundle up now and get 30 gigabytes of data and unlimited phone calls for only $55 per month, plus a discounted smartphone.
You see the new phone plan that Flow made? You could turn postpaid to prepaid.
Hurricane season can be unpredictable, but your business doesn't have to be. In the face of adversity, you need a partner that goes above and beyond. Choose the path of resilience and certainty with C&W Business. Through disaster recovery as a strategy solution, C&W Business will safeguard your critical data, maintain seamless communication channels, and help you bounce back faster than ever before. Visit our website, cwcbusiness.com/myopenbusiness to learn more. Remember, a safe business is an open business.
Rosso, you are now fiber ready. Enjoy faster speeds and bigger savings on Dominica's most reliable network. Sign up now or upgrade to a Flow Fiber internet package and get 1 month free internet service. Add a postpaid mobile to your package and save 50% off your mobile bill every month. Plus, get a smartphone absolutely free. Rosso, are you ready for the Flow Fiber fast internet experience? Feel speed. Visit the Flow flagship store or call 440-3569 for more information.
When a stroke occurs, you have 60 minutes to win or lose the race of your life. There are new treatments, but you must get to the hospital fast. If you suddenly feel weakness on one side or have trouble speaking, walking, or seeing, it could be a stroke. Call 911 or 999. Get to the hospital because how you spend the next 60 minutes could determine how you spend the rest of your life. Stroke. Know the signs. Act in time. A message from the Reasta Foundation in partnership with Flow Dominica.
Roots Rock Bar and Grill presents Recognize Wednesday, each and every Wednesday, featuring selected urban and special guest DJs, 9 p.m. till very late. Featuring specials, Roots Rock Bar and Grill in Tata. See you there.
When I reach any party, everybody don't know. Oh, oh, oh. If you think I'm crazy, it's the music that got me so. Oh, oh. When my party people, throw your hands in the sky. I. Come, my friends, I need you. It's time to raise the vibe with your hands in the air. Hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air. This is how we flow. Yeah, flow is love. Yeah. Hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air. This is how we flow. Yeah. Grab somebody and tell them your happiness will be connected. Smile and cheer because it's me so. Grab somebody and tell them hello. Grab somebody and hold them. Jam with each other. Grab somebody and hold them. Jam with each other. Hold them close, don't go nowhere. Hold them close, don't go nowhere. Independent ladies, step to the front. Oh, oh, oh. Fellas, are you ready? Step to the front. Oh, oh, oh. We're my party people. Put your hands in the sky. I. Come, my friends, I need you. It's time to raise the vibe. Put your hands in the air. Hands in the air. Hands in the air. Hands in the air. This is how we flow. Yeah. Flow is love. Yeah. Hands in the air. flow. Yeah. Grab somebody and tell them hello. Happiness where we connect. Smile and share because it's me so. Grab somebody and tell them hello. Grab somebody and hold them there. Jam with each other. Grab somebody and hold them there. Jam with each other. Hold them close, don't go nowhere. Hold them close, don't go nowhere. With your hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air. This is how we flow. Yeah, flow it's love. Yeah, hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air. This is how we flow. Yeah, grab somebody and tell them hello. Your happiness where we connect. Smile and share because it's me so. Grab somebody and tell them hello. Grab somebody and hold them there. Jam with each other. Grab somebody and hold them there. Jam with each other. Hold them close, don't go nowhere. Hold them close, don't go nowhere. Hello, welcome to Flow.
Like we always do with this time. Go for mine, I got to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. Go for mine, I got to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. Mama, hey. Won't even get pulled off the end, they new feed. The good life, just don't wanna live it free. They say the best things in life are free. The good life, it feel like Atlanta, it feel like LA, it feel like Miami, it feel like NY. Summertime shy. So I roll the good, y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood. And she got the good, she got that, I got the hood. I'm sorry. It's got to be cause I'm seasoned. Haters give me them salty looks. Sorry. Sticky told me go ahead, switch the style up. And if they hate the style, they can watch the money down. Like, come for mine, I got to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. Come for mine, I got to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. Keep my gun in my jaw, duck in the sad news. I'm mostly 7 missed calls, I know it's bad news. This life had left me so scarred, I know it ain't true. Remember, my tongue got so hard, I got it tattooed. So, I ain't in no shows, but make some bread. I gotta keep the family fed. Look, just talk to us about the feds. I ain't gonna lie, he had me scared. I feel him coming, I'll keep on running. If we go down bad, keep it 100. My girl all in my ear screaming, spend some time. I promise I'll be here when I can get some time. Right now, I gotta get what's mine. I'll be talking to the end of time. You niggas, they lame, since they love saying my name. Make sure you write the truest in the motherfucker game on my tombstone and they bury me. By the river, they will carry me. Finally, I'll be resting in peace. Finally, I'll get to fly away somewhere someday. Cut they lane since they love saying my name. Make sure you write the truth in the game. Soapstone, they bury me. By the river, they will carry me. Finally, I'll be resting in peace. Finally, yeah. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what's after this. Finally.
Select the urban run the road.
Never need a I'm what I need. Trying to find the one that can fix me. I've been dodging in the 60s. Got my speed feeling sickly. You need a dog. 100 models getting faded in a clubhouse. Trying to love me, but they never get a close down. Cause I'm heartless, and I'm back to my ways cause I'm heartless. All this money and this pain got me heartless. Cause I'm heartless. So much deep be falling out the pocket. Women turn to a mosh pit. That's the got me flying like a cockpit. Yeah, I gotta watch it. Call me up to a party. For the drugs and a rocket. Stick drunk, but you never miss a target. Photo shoots, I'm a star now. Talking time, rolling song, never saw now. I'm telling dreams, these girls, what they call now. 7 years, I'm swimming with the show now. Cause I'm heartless, and I'm back to my ways cause I'm heartless. All this money and this pain got me heartless. All life, trying to feel that I'm heartless. Never feel what I'm but I'm heartless. All life, run the road. You had me alone. Never make you happy. Don't break my heart, tell me you love. She's an emotional wreck right now. She got the things on her chest right now. I bet she looking at my text right now. My text right now. Don't you in the I don't remember even in your bag. Don't get it confused. You lied to me, I won't believe you again. You'll never see me again. Hurt me my life and now you leaving again. You telling me you lie. Don't break my heart. Tell me beautiful lies. To believe you when you say you always love me that way. Tell me beautiful lies. What can I say to you? Well, nothing I can say. Get farther from the right track. I'm in this place with you. Every day is another day. We can't keep getting down like that. Cause we be falling out. You apologize and I suck it up. Like to stick around, try to tough it up. And we don't you break it in my heart. Tell me beautiful love. I need to believe you when you say that you'll always love me that way. Select up and run the road. In honesty, someone's gotta take the lead. It's gonna be. I'm gonna sit right here until you all that comes to me. If you have something to say, you should say it right now. You should say it right now. You give me a feeling that I never felt before. And I deserve it, I deserve it. You're becoming something that's impossible to ignore. And I can't take it. I was wondering, maybe could I make you something? Do the unthinkable. Would it make us go crazy? If you ask me, I'm ready. If you ask me, I'm ready. You said to me,
This is exactly how it should be when it's meant to be. Time is only wasting, so why wait for eventually? If we gon' do something about it, we should do it right now. Hey, you give me a feeling that I never felt before, and I deserve it, you know I deserve it. Becoming something that was supposed to ignore. If it's what we make it, I was wondering, baby, could I make you my baby? Do the unthinkable, would it make us go crazy? Oh, would it be so beautiful? Run the road. What it is, what's up? Every good girl needs a little love. Every black boy needs a little love. If you put it down, I'ma pick it up. Cause you see, it's just me and you. Panoramic view, that's my point of view. All about me, that's the energy. That's the thing, I'm a 10-piece, baby. Bedroom fully in a bando. He gon' make it flip, do it with no handles. Never switching sides, only switching angles. Ooh, we go crazy like Rambo. What it is, what's up? Every good girl needs a little love. Every black boy needs a little love. If you put it down, I'ma pick it up. What it is, what's up? Every good girl needs a little love. Every black boy needs a little love. If you put it down, I'ma pick it up. Hit him up. In the truck, got it tucked. He gave it up. Say when you know it's on time. She got everything you want in a nice body. Behind every gangster shot is solid, got his back. You know who to come to every time the world handling bad. The one he call first, but still he always put it last. I'm pouring out his glass, my body fighting all that gas. That's all I pay, kicking my the studio doors and all I can keep from sleep. I hate that for you, ain't got no rib trying to be. Being black in America is the hardest thing to be. And I need a little love too, baby, how about me? Told her don't call me a sneak, cause I smell like money. I put her down the greatest, baby, this here for me. I took her from my we vibe to east side the country, so she had a little situation, but I could tell it ain't my name. I mean her rapping. They don't rush, I say don't rush me. I tell how much she like it. By the way, she's like, what it is. What's up? Every good girl needs a little love. Every bad boy needs a little love. If you put it down, I'ma pick it up. What it is, what's up? Every good girl needs a little love. Every bad boy needs a little love. If you put it down, I'ma pick it up. Baby, want no smoke with me. Okay. Turn this mug up 800 degrees. Whole team eat. Chefs, she's a treat. She's so good, I'm savage, attitude nasty. Talk big, but my bank account match it. Hood, but I'm classy. Rich, but I'm ratchet. Haters keep my name in their mouth, not a gagging. Bougie. He say the way that thing move is the movie. Like, boy, we gotta keep it lowly, me the room key. I done bled the block and now it's time to I'm mood and I'm moody. I'm a savage, classy, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, acting stupid. What was happening? What was happening? I'm a savage, classy, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, acting stupid. What was happening? Hips tick tock when I dance. On that demon time, she might start her OnlyFans. If you want to see some real good, baby, here's your chance. I say left cheek, right cheek, drop it low this one. Texas up in the behind, you up in this game. I off my frame, gang. You don't jump to put jeans on, baby, you don't feel my pain. You don't give me hype, write my name in ice. Can't argue with these lazy basics, I just raise my price. I'm a boss, I'm a leader, I pull up in my two-seater, and my mama was a savage. Got this here from Tina, I'm a savage. Yeah, classy, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, acting stupid. What's happening? What's happening? I'm a savage, classy, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, acting stupid. What's happening? What's happening? Beyonce, like me, he wanna punch like the stallion with the knees. He be like, damn, L couldn't do it like me, like me. Ooh. I got this body ready just for you. And I hope you don't catch me messing around with you. Talking to myself in the mirror like, this you my boo. Not I keep on keep it real. Ooh, let's play a game. Simon says I'm still in check. I'm still in line. I'm a savage. Classy, bougie, ratchet. Sassy, moody, nasty. Hacking, stupid, what's happening? What's happening? I'm a savage. Classy, bougie, ratchet. Sassy, moody, nasty. Hacking, stupid, what's happening? What's happening? I can't get it back, but I don't want it back. I realize that she don't know how to act. But when I don't do no, I'm not dense. I just had a slight lack of common sense. I was the good guy, she was the bad girl. I'm thinking one girl, she thinking me. Earl Hayes and Jimmy, yep, she had plenty. But love for me, she didn't have any. I was inviting her. She was out riding some other man's car. She was my nighttime. Thought I was a star. Yes, I was wrong, but see, I'm strong. Won't take long for me to move on. Oh. Select up and run the road. I can't get it back, but I don't want it back. I realize that she don't know how to act. Never been a dumb dude, no, I'm not dense. I just had a slight lack of common sense. I was the good guy, she was the bad girl. I'm thinking one girl, she thinking me, Earl, James, and Jimmy. Yep, she had plenty, but love for me, she didn't have any. I was inviting. She was out riding some other man's car. She was my nighttime. Thought I was a star. Yes, I was wrong, but see, I'm strong. Won't take long for me to move on. Oh, please don't worry about me, I'm fine. Please don't worry about me, I'm fine. I'm gonna play the fool one time. Play the fool. Trust me.